Russell Dalgleish, you describe your purpose in life as helping others succeed. You're an entrepreneur, innovator, and leader, among other things. And I could go on about this all day, so this is a very concise summary of you. Among other things, you're the founder, chair of the Scottish Business Network, an international keynote speaker, and a serial entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Calm in 15 minutes. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
First question I always ask people, and you and I just met 9 minutes ago. You were very generous. I reached out to you and said, Russell, please come on my podcast. I'd love to have you on. You said, yeah, of course. Would you describe yourself as a calm person, Russell?
Um, I suppose it depends on your definition of calm. So I've lost my temper once in the last 20 years.
That's pretty good.
So,
And has that taken work or
sorry, say again?
has that taken work to
Yes.
do somebody's...
Yeah. I'm a
Okay,
different person than I was.
right. So what changed?
So I come from a small town in the Scottish borders, first generation to go to college. I studied computing in the early 80s, became a software programmer, and I had a very successful career. I ended up as an international business person flying the world. But I had a secret that I didn't disclose at the time, which was I was in effect a performing alcoholic.
Right,
So I had an addiction with alcohol. This reached a nadir in 1998, the death of a close family member, life falling apart and everything. And at that point, I was introduced to AA, and that changed my life. AA appealed to me because someone said, would you come to a meeting? And I thought, well, I go to meetings all the time, so that sounds like my kind of thing.
yeah,
And by following the principles of AA written in the 30s, I transformed my life. And the pivotal thing was I discovered a purpose.
right,
So I have one overall purpose in my life, which is not to drink today. And even though I'm 27 years sober, it still is the number one principle. So because of that, I'm able to deal with everything else as being of secondary importance.
wow,
And it sounds very harsh, that, but that's what has turned my life into what it is today, is living life with an absolute 100% purpose that takes over everything else.
yeah. Why'd you say it sounds harsh?
It sounds harsh to put my sobriety ahead of my family, ahead of my career, ahead of my friends.
Do you
But
think?
it's a bit like being on the plane when they tell you to put on the mask yourself before your kids,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I didn't think it sounded harsh at all. I thought it sounded eminently sensible. And you're here 27 years later,
I am. Take
still
the
doing
time.
it.
Yep.
So, so before that, when you were a performing alcoholic, I think was
Mhm.
the word you were using, what was your purpose then?
Oh well, as a performing purpose, your purpose is to get a drink. But I built quite a successful career as well,
Yeah,
because if you work particularly in international sales, alcohol is seen as part of the job. You know, you're taking people out for dinners, you're entertaining, you're
yeah,
doing all the things you do. So I was able still to perform, still to close deals, still to do things,
right,
but becoming gradually worse.
right. So I've read a lot about sports people and particularly people, some of the big drinkers. I mean, I'm going back probably to the 90s where it was much more rife in football. And a lot of the people that I'm always fascinated by people that can perform at a very high level, whether that's business or top class sport, and drink excessively. And they seem to have just enough self control to know when to stop drinking. I'm thinking sort of people like Tony Adams, Paul Merson,
Yep.
Ray Parlour, people that were, playing very high level football, but they would kind of have enough self control to say, do you know what? I'm not going to drink 2 days before a big game, or I won't drink. So how did you manage that with your business? You said you could still, so
No,
the
but
drink
it,
never really controlled you. You were still
Oh no, completely controlled me. But I didn't realize that at the time. What controlled me was my ego.
right.
So what I discovered is, putting down the drink is one thing and it's an important step, but it's actually how you rewire your brain to
Yeah.
live life.
Yeah.
So the single most important thing to me was that I discovered that I had an overwhelming ego. And the desire to be right, the desire to be liked, the desire to never make a mistake,
Right.
those were the things that drove me.
Yeah.
And by re-educating myself over time with the help of a lot of people, I realized that in order to stay sober, what I had to do was to manage my ego. And to manage my ego, for me, it was getting out of my head. So rather than sitting here going, what can I get out of this? I sit here going, what can I do to help Steve make this the best podcast possible? And that logic just gets me focused on you and not on me. And then after that, everything else is easy. So you can perform on a stage in front of 1,000 people because you're thinking of them. You're not thinking about yourself.
Yeah. Did you always want to be a senior leader when you were young? Did you always have ambitions to
No,
be?
my only ambition was to get out of the town. So the town I was brought up in, my family had been there since the 15th century. So a
Wow.
town of 5,000 people, everybody knew each other. My only desire was to get out of the town. There were two options, go to a thing called a college that was in the big city or go into the army. And I'm 6'5" and I reckoned I was too big a target. So I decided to suddenly cram my exams at the last minute to get enough qualifications to go to college.
Right.
No, there was no thought on what to do then.
Right.
No, none of that was planned.
And if this isn't too personal question, what do you think? Do you think it was the pressure of being in senior positions in business and everything that comes with that that made you drink, or do you think you would have drunk if
So,
you'd have?
so this is a great question, and the answer is I don't know,
Right.
and also it doesn't matter. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The reason why doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the solution and
Yeah.
helping other people find that solution. That's
Yeah.
what's important.
Yeah.
And you asked calm at the start of the call, and that's what keeps me calm. So if I'm in a position where I'm not calm, for example, I step away. If I've got a potential business trip or a deal to do or someone to work with, and it doesn't feel right, I just step away. And that power to do that is incredible because you're
Mm.
just looking after yourself first all the time.
Mm. Tell me about the highest stakes situation you've ever been in, Russell, and most importantly, how you got through it. And you can interpret that question however you like. So the highest stakes situation, whether that's related to the drink, whether it's a big
Do you
business.
mean you mean the most to lose?
Yeah, however you'd frame higher stakes, maybe the most stressful, maybe
A
the most
3 year
pressure.
court case.
Oh, wow.
So a 3 year court case that so I got involved with a fraudster, and that led on to a very difficult journey. So dealing with the British legal profession over a 3 year period, that was the biggest challenge. Because you have to, when you're involved in a long-term court case, you have to deal with the court case and then put it in a box and get on with your normal life.
Mm,
And learning how to manage that was really interesting. And like I accept it's my fault for getting involved in it in the first place, but I don't know if you've ever been involved with the British legal profession, but it is a painful, expensive experience.
I can imagine, yeah. So give us more detail how you manage that. So whilst this is
So,
happening,
so the core to everything is about your purpose. So if you stick to your core purpose all the time as your most important thing, everything else is secondary. So being involved in a court case or dealing with family members with ill health or dealing with challenges at business, if your primary purpose is, in my case, is not to drink, then that allows you to conceptualize everything else. Because you can go to bed at the end of the day and no matter how tough a day it's been, you haven't drunk. So that was the purpose.
right.
So that's how I do it.
Do you think there's anything you could have said to your younger self about dealing with stress, about managing sobriety that would have meant you would never have ended up drinking, or do you think this was an inevitable part of your life? And are you grateful for it now, actually? Sorry, let me ask you that first.
N-
Would you say you're grateful for
No,
what
no,
alcohol has
because of the
turned?
harm and destruction I caused in my earlier life.
Right.
I cannot be grateful for the experience. I'm grateful, incredibly grateful now to have the
Yeah.
life I have today. But no, I'm not grateful for the experience. It was hell. And if I'd gone back in time and told my younger self would just have told me, go away. What do I
Yeah.
know? Yeah. You
That's
have to, there's something important about help, which is you have to want it.
yeah.
I've spent time doing things like uh, manning call lines, for example,
Mm.
talking to people who've got problems. And unless the person wants help, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And all you can do is to look out for their family and give them the guidance and point them at the support available for them. So it has to start with the individual. So if someone finds themselves in a position where they are struggling, they have to recognize and accept that. And
Yeah.
that's really difficult.
Yeah.
I can only speak as a man. Admitting the fact I failed or not good at something is really difficult.
It is.
I was brought up by a father who would have said, do it yourself, never ask for help.
Right.
The car breaks down, take the engine apart and fix it. And I'm going, I've
Right.
got AA, what are you talking about? So, sorry, I've got the Automobile
Yeah.
Association,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? So, and we went to a school where if you did the wrong thing, you got rapped on the knuckles by someone with a wooden ruler.
Yeah.
So you would never take a risk. You learn never to ask for help.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered is if you ask for help, people are more than delighted to help you. You've had that experience yourself. We mentioned that. And I suppose I've built a career asking for help.
Have you?
And whenever I'm involved in any project, we did a big event in London recently, and I just asked a couple of people if we could use their boardroom, and they said, "Yeah, sure."
I saw that. I saw your TEDx talk, and that
Yeah,
started with you saying, "Have you got a room we could use?" And they said, "Yeah, use our boardroom." And then they said, "Oh, by
yeah,
the way, do you want some drink? Do you want some food?" And then it went from there, right?
yeah. That's the mad bit. But uh, but it's all about recognize. So if someone is watching this who is unhappy with their life, they have to sit down and think about what don't they like about it, and who can they speak to get help.
Mm.
And that might come from someone that they've seen, a professional, whatever it is, but just ask for help.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think men, sweeping statement, but I think men do instinctively find it harder to, and I don't want to use the word admit, right? Because admit such a heavy label, Russell. To admit we've failed or to admit we need help. Like it's if you look at the vernacular around all this stuff, it's set up to make everybody feel even worse, right? I admit I've got a problem, I need some help. I admit this, I
It's
suffer with. I'm
it's worse that it's harder than that because it's admitting and then also realizing that you are responsible. So if I look at anything that's gone wrong in my life, it's easy for me to say, oh, it was his fault or she did this.
yeah,
Whereas actually, if I step back and I honestly look at it, I go, there's some point where I'm kind of responsible.
yeah,
I shouldn't have gone down that street. I shouldn't have gone there. So I take my responsibility for that. And that's an important part as well. So asking for help and realizing that you're responsible for the problem and also responsible for the solution. And the final part is that any journey takes a lot of work. A
yeah.
lot there's no such thing as an overnight fix.
Mm,
There's working really, really, really hard over a long period of time. If you want to be success as an entrepreneur, the one thing successful entrepreneurs will tell you is they worked hard.
mm. Yeah. I mean, I teach stress reduction in business. You and I were chatting about it before we pressed record. And I always say to people, you've got to think about this because there's so much toxic garbage on social media about change this one thing and this one hack will fix everything.
Mhm,
And I say to people, you've got to think about this the way we think about all the other stuff, like just brushing your teeth, eating healthily. For you, not drinking, it's a daily thing, right? You've got to come
mhm.
back to it. It's got to be
Yeah,
part of the pantheon of good things that you, Russell, do every single day because, otherwise you're going to fall off the wagon very fast and be back to where you were.
yeah,
So I read somewhere when I was researching this, it said you'd say that you're following a life plan that prioritizes your mental health above
yeah.
all. Aside from not drinking, is there anything else that you do? Give us some other tips about
So
prioritizing your mental.
everything else flows off that.
Yeah,
So everything else flows off the fact that and I feel I've got complete clarity. And my journey with sobriety has shown me is that there's the AA big book that was written in the 30s actually defines it. And the benefits I get from my life all come from that, from following these principles. So trying to be honest all the time, trying to think about others instead of thinking about myself. And those types of things all help me. But I think ego, and that's possibly not the right word, is terribly misunderstood. That we all spend, it's a challenge I found with mindfulness, because mindfulness left me and my head together, which wasn't a nice place to be because I'm an alcoholic. So I discovered that actually spending time helping others was way better for me, and and everything just naturally flows from that. So I feel more in tune with the universe, if you like. I never come up with ideas myself, ever. I react and say yes when people come and say to me. So Steve Ware comes to me and says, "Would you do this podcast?" And I go, "Yes." We have a chat. You're a good guy. We'll record this podcast, and then something will happen, and I'll react to that. So I don't need to go out and make things happen. I believe that in my life, and this sounds a little bit spiritual, but I believe that my higher power puts people in front of me to help me.
Mm,
And all I have to work out is how I can help them. And that's it.
that's nice. You have your book behind you. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So, at the core of our business ethos, we discovered that a most of us find it very difficult to actually express what our ask is, what help we need.
Yeah.
So, for example, you might be looking to get more people to sign up for your podcast. So you should be asking me and saying, "Hey, Russell, what could you do to help me get more people to sign up for my podcast?" And I would say, "Great, well, send me the podcast when it's live and I'll tell lots of people about it." That's a very straightforward ask,
Yeah.
but something inside us doesn't make us do that.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you
So
think?
what we did was we conceptualized that and then documented it in a book as to how you go about getting that ask. And the key thing about the ask is being really specific. So I don't want to hear about, "I've got this lovely podcast, Russell. It was great you were on it. It would be wonderful if more people listened." That's not an ask. The ask is, "Russell, could you help us get more people signed up for the podcast?" And I'm able to say, "Yes, I'll do this."
Right. And at what point would you suggest, because that sounds relatively direct,
Mhm.
at what point would you recommend being that direct to people? If I just found you online and I saw, oh, Russell's he founded, this Scottish Business
Yeah,
Network. I'd love to teach some companies in Scotland. I've got this great course. Would
yeah.
I just message you and go, Russell, I want you to introduce me to some people
So
in your network?
So if you wrote to me and said, "Russell, I'd like you to introduce to me to some people in your network," my immediate reaction would be human. I'd go, "Who are you?"
Yeah,
Right? But if you dropped me a note and you said, "Russell, I saw you on Steve's podcast. You were really good. Would you be able to spare 5 minutes to speak to me on the phone so that I could learn from you and how I could get more people to use my mindfulness program?" Now, I'm likely to say yes.
yeah,
5 minutes, person's nice, they've said something nice to
yeah,
me, doesn't happen all the
yeah.
time. If you'd said, "Could I buy you a coffee?" I'll say no, because you're looking for a 1 hour commitment from me and I've got no idea. But if you just ask for a 5 minute phone call, that's pretty difficult to say no to.
Mm,
So that's what we cover in the book is how to go about correct. And it's all about engaging with people, how to go about doing that in order to get people to honestly want to help you.
nice. I'm going to read it. Is it on Audible? It's available on books, isn't
I've
it?
still to record the. I want to personally record the Audible
Yeah,
version
yeah,
because
yeah,
there's something about the intonation about some of the words.
yeah.
But no, but it's on Amazon and stuff to buy.
Right, I will look it up. We'll close with some quick fire questions, if that's all right.
Thank you.
You a morning or evening person?
Morning.
I think I know the answer to this one. Emails or phone calls?
Both.
Okay. Favorite food?
I do like bacon.
Do you?
Uh-huh.
In a sandwich and a nice big butty with,
Um, I don't just bacon.
yeah.
I've realised that recently that I've got very simple tastes.
Okay. Favorite book? Obviously your book, but apart from that, what books really influence?
How to win friends and influence people.
That's a classic.
That book should be taught at school because
Yeah.
not only does the what comes from it teach you how to be a better business person, teach you how to be a better person.
Yeah. Guilty pleasure.
Sorry?
Guilty pleasure. What's your guilty pleasure?
Um, Chocolate, maybe? I'm not sure. Box sets?
Okay. Maybe box sets and chocolate.
Yeah,
Two birds, one stone. If you could invite anyone over for dinner, alive or dead, who would you have?
Kenny Dalgleish.
Ah. Tell us more, because you share a surname. Is that where it ends?
So, Kenny Dalglish has been a hero. I think there was a link initially because of the name,
Yeah. Have you traced your
but
name back?
yes, town I was born in 1480.
Right. And
Um,
Kenny's no.
no, well, all the Dalglishes are somehow related,
Oh, okay.
but his because I have an interest in this with people with an affinity to Scotland, he represents Scotland on a number of different levels. So his directly honest approach represents is very Scottish. You know, it's very not. You ask the question, here's the answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, his use of sarcasm in talking. So I bumped into him at Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament, and I went over and I said, I just had to say hello because you know you're my hero, and we have the same name. And he said, sorry about that. And I thought, oh, that's just the perfect answer. So, but also his experience at the three greatest sporting disasters we've seen in the UK and how he went about dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then his own experience with the pressures of that mental breakdown when he had to step away as a football manager because it just got too much. In his autobiography, he talks about the last game at, I think it was against Everton, and he just realised he couldn't do this anymore.
Oh, wow.
And also because of his the, if you ever see an interview with him with his wife, where his wife's taking the lead, it's quite striking to see a man of his stature not interrupting and taking over. So he's been a hero of mine for a number of different reasons.
Wow. And of course, Kelly, his daughter, is very prominent on, I think she's on Sky Sports now as well. Does she do Five
She
Live? And
is, yeah.
she's
Yeah.
excellent.
She did an interview with him when he won an award, and she was doing the interview as the BBC person, and then ended with "Thanks, Dad." A
Nice.
lovely touch.
Well, Russell, thank you so much for joining me on Decoding Common 15 minutes. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much. Now, take care.
You too.